I guess this is the intro video for the Ranger. Here it is. The dreams that have been waiting to come true have come true. I got myself a pre-runner. Something I've literally always dreamt of. Something I've literally always wanted. Something I went to school to learn how to do and build and whatnot. And I finally have one. And it's amazing. It's not perfect. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff that needs addressing. There's a lot of stuff that needs work. But I have one. And I got it, and it's got good bones. Something that'd be really good to build off of, transform, change, do what I want with. It'll be amazing. So, I guess this is the intro video for the Ranger. I haven't really figured out a name for it yet. Haven't had, anything speak to me. But, this will be the intro. Like I said, this is the walk around. This is the introduction. So I guess here we go. Start at the front, I guess I should just talk about it first. This is a 95 Ford Ranger. Honestly, I don't know a whole lot of the background on the truck. Yeah. There's a lot of fishy stuff that lead me to believe that there's some differences in how it came to me, obviously besides the suspension and whatnot. So this is a 4-liter Ranger 4-liter, not stock motor. This is a junkyard motor. From what year Ranger and everything, I couldn't tell you. I do think it's an overhead cam motor. Honestly, I really haven't paid attention that much. I'll probably edit that out and double check real quick. But it is a 4-liter Ranger motor. It is a 5-speed, which is not necessarily something you want in a pre-runner type vehicle, but it's what we have now, and so it works. Okay, so I guess getting some obvious stuff now. Corbo racing seats. They will not last much longer for a bunch of reasons, I guess. They are just old, they're torn, they're worn, they sit extremely low, which obviously that's something I can change. I just gotta make them taller, but they're just old, probably time to be replaced. And with that too, super high side bolster, which is amazing until you're trying to get in and out of it, which I personally don't mind, but different seat will be better. And if you're gonna have a pre-runner or something that you jump and hit bumps really hard with, you're gonna want a suspension seat. Are these suspension seats? Sure. Do they suspension anymore? Honestly, probably not. These things are pretty well blown out. So besides the seats, mostly stock interior. It's all gutted for future things. It's got some lights in it that I put in there because it's really nice to have light at night. Not all of them are on, so that'll probably pop up later in this video. Quick release steering wheel. Again, high bolster seats. You cannot slide out of the seat. You literally have to stand up to get out, and you can't do that with the steering wheel in front of you. So it's just a Sparco, basic Sparco wheel. It's got some road bike handlebar tape on it, probably because it was worn through. Super sweet wheel though, still. Janky 3D printed temperature gauge mount that is not mounted anymore because nothing sticks to 30-year-old plastic. Cool, we'll address that. Okay, moving on. I guess outside of the truck, we'll go over here. I couldn't tell you which glass this is, but this is somewhat of a stock style glass kit, you know, not some Raptor kit, not some crazy kit. It's you know, it might not actually be a stock kit, or I mean a stock style kit, you know, but it's a very simple, chill design, big bulge. If I had to guess, probably a 6-inch. Honestly, yeah, no, probably a 6-inch, maybe more. You gotta think, your stock fender is gonna come out into here anyways. Probably a 6-inch, maybe an 8-inch, not sure. Aftermarket headlights, you know, blah blah, who cares. Really crappy LEDs in there. Sweet little pre-runner bumper somebody made, not me, because, you know, if I was leaving that kind of crap, I would shoot myself. Ha! Bad joke. But anyways, yeah. Side note, some of the welds on this truck are absolutely horrendous. You'll see. But continuing. Stock spindles. That is a later video. Blah, blah, blah. So on and so forth. We'll get to that. Okay. So, cut and lengthened beams. I'm pretty sure these are stock beams that are cut, extended, and plated. I'm not 100%, but I'm like 85 to 94% sure that these are stock beams. Just cut, extended, and bent. So steering wise, I got swing steer, single swing, because these are unequal length beams. Still badass. I think they're off by like 4 inches or something, 5 inches, which I guess is kind of a lot, but it's not that much. So single swinger, swing steer. Yes, I guess that's about it for that. Then you come over here, Fox 2.5 coilover. I want to say these are like a 12 or 14-inch shock. I haven't actually double checked because I don't need to yet, you know, big stuff later. 2.5 bump stop, 2-inch travel, limit strapped. The front end is strapped at 17 inches. It can do more, but you know, I guess I just get right into it. Remember I was saying this truck has good bones, but it's not great. It's exactly that. You know, it's got swing steer. It's amazing. It's a huge upgrade. Super sick. I guess backstory of swing steer, if you don't know. So your beam, okay, what the wheel's connected to, the beam, that is your suspension arm. It is basically just a really long control arm, okay? So what happens when you're steering, your tie rod is shorter than your control arm as you get bump steer. So swing steer mimics the beam, and you have basically the exact same length tie rod as your beam. Okay, that's swing steer. So tie rod end, beam end, come over here. I don't know if you can see the back beam, but tie rod end, beam end. This front one, the driver's side, same. Cool, okay? That's how you eliminate bump steer. The whole point of swing steer is for both arms to be parallel with each other so that they never collide. It's kind of hard to see here on camera, but you see that right there? See how the tie rods are crossed? Which is actually something you really don't want. Because what that means is when this driver's side wheel comes up, it's gonna bonk into something. So not cool, okay? Not cool. I've already messed around with it and I've got it as best as I can now in this configuration. So that's a big problem, okay? That's got to change. Big problem. Another one, not as big, still kind of a big problem. See where that beam mounts, how it's offset to the front? Well, it's way too close and it actually touches this piece. You can probably see it on camera, I don't know, I'm not sure. But, so I gotta make a new mount. Super easy, just have to do it. Scoot it back like an inch, be totally fine. With that, come over here to your radius arms. These, I think, are just like a boxed radius arm. I don't think these are stock reinforced. I think this is actually just box radius arm mounts, big cross member in there, super sweet, well done on that part, okay? So, I guess moving on back to the lower links. Some people call them trailing arms. Technically, it's a trailing arm setup right now because I don't have upper links. But it is linked, which is massive, okay? Super, super cool. Until we get to the next part, which we'll obviously explain, okay? Link mounts, well done. Links themselves, well done 90%, okay? So before we get to that part, come back here. Another Fox 2.5. I think this is maybe a 14 or 16 inch. This is probably a little bit longer than the front. Okay. Come back here, 2.5 inch King bump stops with a we're gonna go 4 inch bump, 4 inch travel bump. Okay. I didn't measure this stuff. You don't need to measure that stuff. Not important yet. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that's gonna change. Then we'll measure. Really basic bed cage. Just another super sweet point though. This has a little bed cage. So, I mean, obviously, even if I decided to cut this thing out and redo it, blah, 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 but at least it has one, okay? That's a big start. If I decide to keep it, I can build off of it, change it, whatever, okay? Super sweet. So 2.5s, Fox 2.5 shock, King bump, okay? Limit straps. The rear end is strapped at 22 inches, which is gnarly, okay? I can't even, it's really hard to explain, okay? If you took this bumper and you lifted it all the way up to where you maxed out the limit straps and the tires were just coming off the ground, that bumper would be around here. I know that looks crazy compared to the height of the truck. It's almost to where the roof line would be. It's literally over my head. The bumper comes way up here. It's insane. Super cool. All right, back to where I was saying about the whole trailing arm link kind of type deal. So this has 2 lower links and a panhard bar. Right there, panhard mount, panhard bar runs across to the axle. Basically, this panhard is doing the job of the upper links by keeping the axle mostly centered and keeping it from twisting. I say mostly centered because that bar right there swings an arc, just like the rest of all your suspension components. So when the axle goes up and goes to full bump, the tire will stick out a little bit on this side. When the axle goes down, it goes to full droop, the axle will stick out on this side because the axle itself is swinging like relative to that bar. That bar is correct, or basically controlling where the axle goes. So panhards are sweet. That's the only drawback, is it moves your axle off the center line of the truck. That's not that big of an issue. The big issue is where, if some of you have noticed, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, there's no sway bars, okay? So why don't you come on over here and we'll show you why there's no sway bars. Whoever decided to go with these links / kit, maybe, whatever they chose, okay? These links are double mounted. You see that right there? What that does is this mount, this bolt, and this bolt, they fight each other. So with the axle going up and down, totally fine, totally happy, everything's in line where it needs to be, it's great. As soon as this tire tries to go higher than that tire, these two bind. They go into a really nasty bind, basically. So I have no sway bar because this doesn't allow the axle to articulate. You know, and that sounds like a good idea on paper until you fold a link, break an axle, you know, put some serious force on that and cause a really serious failure. So if this truck did nothing but be a bro runner and hit some parking lot jumps every now and then, would that be fine? Yeah, that'd be fine. You know, if you stayed strictly in a straight line and never turned, never articulated the rear end, you get away. But that's just not good. So that's already in the works to change. The whole rear end, blah, 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 is going to change, okay? That'll be for a later video. So that's front suspension, rear suspension, wheels, American Racing. I don't remember the actual name of the wheel. I can put it in the video once I remember. But American Racing wheels, super badass, super light. So then attached to the wheel comes the tire. So a little something your boy didn't notice until he got home when he was looking for, you know, just looking at him, I guess. There's no DOT number on this. And then you see that. I don't know if you can read that. That says for ATV, UTV use only. Your boy has side-by-side tires on, but they're fine. They're 10 ply. They're plenty strong, plenty great. They're super soft. They have great traction. No reason to be sketched out by anything. But 35-inch tire, 35 by 10 by 15. Mongrels. Actually, incredibly good tires in the dirt. Extremely, extremely good. Was very surprised, okay? So then, I guess part of the obvious stuff right here. When I got the truck, the exhaust came out of right here, this little hole. Dude who made it was super stoked on it. It actually looked pretty cool, you know, it was different, pretty cool. Until I tried to get it emissioned, and the emissions people were a bunch of flaccid wieners about it and would not test it. Even though the hose reached up to it perfectly and everything was fine, they refused to test it. So I went home after work, did this, okay? Now before anybody says anything, that is not mine. That monstrosity is not mine. That, not mine. This nice TIG weld that's rusted because I didn't paint it, that's mine. And it's actually not this silver one right here. It's this guy right here. Nice little TIG weld. I did that. My homemade exhaust hanger, you know, I was pretty proud of that for a little 20-minute idea. Anyways, this is what I wanted. I think it looks way cooler than that. I didn't put the surround on it or anything yet, but it came out really good for literally like a 2-hour job, just trying to hack it together so I could go to emissions the next day after work. Turned out phenomenal, and I'm super stoked on it. So then, I guess, get into some of the lighting on the truck, okay? Probably saw it in the B-reel, some of the other stuff. Got a little, it's like a 20-inch light bar, half amber, half, I guess, white. It's a straight up spotlight. This thing is brighter than crap, but in like a 6-foot radius, or 6-foot width, I should say. It'll go super far, it reaches out really far, but it's not very wide. That's okay, totally fine, you know? Then I got these guys in here, another set of ambers. This is more on the chase light setup, but they still work good. They're surprisingly bright. Really good lights. So then, along with the chase lights, you know, the actual chase lights back here, these are, I want to say this is either a Baja Designs like S2 replica or it's an actual S2. I'm not sure. Super bright little lights though. These things rip. Then you get to this big guy. This is the big light bar, light rack, I guess you could say. And it's actuated. So right there, push of a button, that flips up, boom, big light. The 3 white lights, incredibly bright, amazing. The 2 ambers, not very bright at all. So those will have to get fixed, situated, changed, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty much the whole Ranger, okay? So like I said, good bones. Really, really good bones. But there's also some not good stuff within those bones, and those bones need some correcting. They will be corrected, let me assure you. Stuff is already in the works, and it is gonna be amazing. It already is amazing. Things fucking sweet. So, but yeah, hopefully you guys are excited. Hopefully you're as excited, half excited as I am, because this thing is going to be so sick, and we're going to get a lot of really good stuff with this truck. So until next time, until you see more, deuces.